This is a mutiny.
Hello everyone, you are in the Dawn Dimension. What's up everybody, Matt Magna here with Dawn Dimension Cars, and I got a special treat for you today. Right behind me, as you can see, there's a motorcycle. This is none other than a 1987 Honda VF700c. It is more commonly referred to as a Honda Super Magna. Now, this is a cruiser from the 80s with a 700cc V4 engine, and it sounds amazing. More on that in just a bit. Here's the intro. If you want to see more reviews of bikes, cars, and toys like this, consider hitting that subscribe button, and also hit the like button if you like what you see. Alrighty then, let's get started. Yeah? Alright, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's just start with the history of these bikes. So they started making Honda Magnas in 1982 and made them until 1988. And then from 94 to 2003 after that, those were a little bit different. But so when they started in 1982, they were first called the V45. And at that time, they had 750cc displacement. And then they made those for 2 years, and they were solid V4 engines with a pretty good 79 horsepower. Now, the same engine was used by Honda's Sabre, and the next year, the Interceptor. So, up until 1984, those were, of course, 750cc, but Harley-Davidson lobbied for a tariff on bikes that were 700cc or more. So if they didn't want to deal with the tariff on the imports, so Honda decreased their displacement to just below this to navigate around the high import tariffs, which reached nearly 50% in the first year in the US market. So as a result, they engineered the Honda VF700c Magna, also called the V40. And of course, in 1982 up until this time, they were called the 750 or also the V45. So they dropped the displacement on the V40 700cc down to actually 699cc to be just under that limit, and they actually managed to make it a bit better. They were able to squeeze 81 horsepower out of this smaller engine, which of course is a couple more horsepower than the 750 had. And in the end, people ended up calling the VF700 the Super Magna. So fun little fact, Magna already means great in Latin, so they were just gonna add super. So super great, why not? Look, now I know history class can get a little boring after a while, so let's talk about its looks. This is an aggressive yet refined looking cruiser. It's got a 3.4 gallon saddle tank that fits in really well, and it really stands out with its quad exhaust and also the aluminum covered rear wheel, which is really nice because it's also a really wide rear tire that adds to this whole masculine package. You can see the stylish and aerodynamic looking vents that let some of the heat escape as well. So the sharp looking candy wave blue is what this bike has. It's really nice to look at, but it's not too flashy. And the only other color for the 87 model year was Candy Borgogne Red. I'm not sure who came up with these names, but they probably most definitely had a sweet tooth, but they were also told they had to sound cultured. So does it come off as pompous to add a French word in there? Well, why not combine the two? You can add some Laffy Taffy with your Pinot Noir. So whatever the color, I think the Super Magna has just the right recipe for aesthetics. Not too naked and not a big fairing either. So enough of my wild theories. How about that engine? Of course the V4 engine is in plain sight. It's not trying to hide because it knows it's got some power. More on that in a minute. Now let's just talk about the handling of the Super Magna. Now as far as the handling in the ride goes, it's got a little bit longer wheelbase than its predecessor for highway riding, so it's definitely a cruiser and not a sports bike. Now that being said, it's decent at corners, just not super tight corners. It's pretty smooth and it soaks up the bumps somewhat. The twin shocks at the rear have 4 inches of travel, but the seat height is pretty low to the ground, so it's just not designed to be really smooth either, like a dual sport or adventure bike. Now it's really nice for short people though, because just about anybody who rides this can have their heels on the ground. I know you've been waiting for this, so how about that power? Now let me show you instead of telling you, because that's what your riding instructors will always tell you to do anyways. So here we go. Listen to that V4. That sound is absolutely amazing. One of the best sounds that you can find on a motorcycle. And really, this 81 horsepower in a pretty light cruiser is as much power as most riders would need. Obviously there's newer bikes that are much more powerful, but for me personally, just going mostly full throttle on this, the highway just a little bit, that's plenty enough thrill for me to question my choices. Should I really be going full throttle like that? There's a lot of power. It's a lot of fun, exhilaration even. It's really plenty fast. Plenty fast, especially if you're a beginner. It's not really wanting for power. Some more engine figures for you. It's got 46 foot-pounds of torque in this liquid-cooled 4-stroke V4 with double overhead cams. And it's a 6-speed manual transmission, which is always nice. And it's old, so it's carbureted. There's 4 carburetors, the same ones as the 750 Magna, and the compression ratio is 10.5 to 1, which I believe is also the same as the 750. Lastly, it's shaft driven, so no wheelies on this one, which is fine. Overall, it's a great package, a great cruiser that you can get for a pretty reasonable price. You might get a better deal on 750 Magna because they're less rare, but overall I would say this is a good bargain. A pretty comfortable cruiser for long distances, not the most comfortable. It's plenty fast, and it looks really cool. So there you have it. Oh, the review's done? Great. Well, if you like this motorcycle, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing as well. That's it for Don Dimension Cars. We'll see you next time.